Welcome back to the Significant Recruiting Podcast. I'm Matt Rogers, and today I'm joined by Brian Olehy, a parent who's actively walking through the recruiting journey with his daughter. Before we dive in, a quick apology. We had some microphone issues during the recording. There are moments when Brian's audio isn't as clear as I'd like, but I'm incredibly thankful for his passion, his honesty, and his willingness to talk openly about his daughter Kelsey's journey. Brian reached out about a year ago looking for direction, and his family has since used the full Significant Recruiting Toolbox, from our books to the Launchpad classes and even our film evaluation program. Kelsey earned her first offer early this fall and continues to build strong relationships with coaches who fit her ability, her values, and her priorities. This conversation is a simple one. It's between two dads, nothing scripted, nothing coached, just real insight from a parent who took a chance and leaned into the process. And I'm thankful for Brian for doing it. All right, let's jump in. Here's my conversation with Brian Olehy. You and I have been talking for months now. You came to me and said, Matt, my daughter's going through this recruiting process. Here's where we're at. Talk a little bit about where you guys were 3 or 4 months ago and where this journey started for you.
3 or 4 months ago, let me go back to even further. Kelsey started playing. She's a volleyball player. She's an undersized volleyball player. Plays at a small high school and plays club. She's played club for a long time, since she was about 11 years old. Last year, they had a lot of success with their varsity. She started varsity. They had a lot of success. They were the state championship runner-up. Around that time, at the early part of last year, as a sophomore, when she made varsity, she really started to talk about, I want to play in college. That's when it became evident to her. Just trying to get her to a point where understanding who she is as a player and what it's going to take to get to the next level and what it takes to play at the next level. We started out with, and probably, I feel like we probably started out, to me, about 6 months later than I wish we would have. I wish we would have had a little better plan, maybe 6 months sooner. And that's what I'd stress to people is probably in that 8th grade freshman year, if you have an idea you're going to do something, then start looking at where you think you're going to fit and slot ability wise, and then start looking into places that you're actually interested in academically and athletically, where you think you would fit. What do you think? It's super difficult for an 8th grader to go, I want to do X when I'm 30 years old. So you've got to keep your options open. You have to keep everything available to you. But 3 or 4 months ago, even 6 months ago, it was actually like 6, 8 months ago, what really launched me to you and to Significant Recruiting, Significant Coaching, the book, the podcast, all of that was, I don't even know where I saw it. I just saw that there was going to be a webinar, and it was going to be with Coach Burkett at UW-Platteville. And honestly, if it hadn't been for being UW-Platteville and us following them so much on Instagram and how much Kelsey and I liked watching what they did, I may not even have watched, because it was like, oh, I want to see that lady. Like, they're funny.
Yeah.
They're hilarious. Like, they don't take themselves too serious. And if you haven't checked that out, you should check out their Instagram. So grow their followers. But it was that opportunity to listen to her, because I felt like that was a place like D3, NAIA D2 is where I always felt like my daughter fit. And I played Division III football, and I was not very good. So I understand not being committed athletically, definitely not being committed academically, and ending up on academic probation and the cost of Division III athletics and academics. We're not going to make the same mistakes my parents let me.
Yeah.
And I did coach some sports, some athletics in high school. So I've had kids get recruited. So I had some ideas about athletics and what's athletic. And I knew at her size, at her height, D1 was not going to come knocking on her door, no matter how fast she was, no matter if she set the ball, no matter how good she passed. Her defense, none of that was going to probably get her to a high level Division I. So we had to be realistic about where we were. And as we started to talk about it a little bit, it was like, I'm going to watch this webinar. And it gave a lot of good information. It was honestly, it was lightly attended, unfortunately. It was great. It's super information. Go back and find it on your channel, because it's good information. That is an excellent starting spot for anybody starting this journey. And I've got a guy at work too that has a son he has 2 sons. One's a junior and one's a freshman. and they both play basketball in Indiana, where I live, which is a basketball heavy state. And one of them, the younger one, wants to play. And I told him, like, okay, he's a freshman. This is when you really need to get started. You need to start now. And here's the book, here's the website. And we even talked about using the free services of sports recruits and NCSA and those websites. And it's funny because he told me, he said, my wife told me that we should probably sign up on that. He's, I get these emails all the time. It's probably just some sort of scam with this thing. And I'm like, no, NCSA is real. I said, they can take a lot of money from you if you let them, but they also have these free tools and these free searches and lets you see all these schools and all this information and puts you out there. So I have a guy that I work with who has two sons in high school. They're basketball players. We're in Indiana. They're crazy basketball state. One of his sons, his freshman son, really wants to play in college. Like, and he wants to work at it. He talks about him being a gym rat and working out. I said, you need to get started now. This is when you need to start looking at things and start going to actual camps, like being seen and putting yourself out there. And we talked about the free services. I said, NCSA. And he said, is that real? And he said, I get these emails. My wife said we should probably put him on there. And he said, no, they're just trying to get our money. It's just a scam. And I was like, no, NCSA, Sports Recruits, those are real sites. And there's a lot of great free tools that you can get to put your name out there. It's the way to go. He's really, he's out. And he came back and said, he had to tell his wife, yeah, you were right. So he didn't like that. But yeah, so a lot of people are where we are. A lot of people are in the same boat. And then to bring it all forward, I needed to hear from somebody who has firsthand knowledge, firsthand information, firsthand ability to scout and say, yes, that kid can play at X level. And that's where we got started, because Kelsey played travel volleyball with a very good club. She switched clubs this year, which I'm very proud that she did. She switched clubs. She's played club volleyball. She's done private lessons. We've invested in that because it's her passion. She's done lessons with a guy who is a brand new assistant at Wisconsin volleyball, was the associate head coach at Purdue for years, a name that volleyball people will recognize, John Dell. He did lessons with John for the last couple of years. He was also an assistant coach with the pro team with the Indy Ignite. He's had good training, but I don't necessarily want to go and ask a Division I coach, where do my kids play? And I don't really necessarily count on club coaches to tell me, or even really the high school coach, because his job is to coach the team. It's not to evaluate my kid for high school. And it's not his job to get my kid recruited. And then to add to our story, Kelsey's mom and I are divorced. I live very close, but he doesn't live with me every day. So we have a very good relationship, and we both invest in her volleyball. But we also said, we're not going to invest our time and effort into getting you recruited if you're not going to take the lead. And getting Kelsey on board, you got to send the emails. We're not going to helicopter parent you into this. If this is what you want, then you have to put the effort into it. And as we started to look around and we started to consider our options, I had already seen your podcast, Coach Burkett, from UW-Platteville, and I had an idea, and I reached out to you. Quite honestly, I just emailed and said, look, and basically just told you this long story I've just been telling about Kelsey's background, and said, I just want to know if she's good enough. How do I find that out? Where do I go? And that's a service that you offer from your experience as a coach and as a recruiter and talent evaluator for NCSA for so many years. Just having somebody, and there are 100 services out there that will do it. Some of them reputable, some of them not so much. And you need to pick the one that's right for you and your family and who you trust. Obviously, I'm going to endorse Matt Rogers, but you can go out and find whoever you want. And that's where we got started.
And that's great. And I appreciate that a lot. My question is, let's go back to starting early. I love that you guys have learned that from a personal experience, how important it is to start early. You talked from the beginning, you wish you would have started 6 months early. For those parents that are struggling with thinking about their child's college experience at 13, 14, 15 years old, what advice would you give them about it's really taking the pressure off of you to start early more than putting more pressure on.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
If you get an early start on it and then you start to evaluate, I think one thing I would say with parents is there's a couple of points I'd make here. One is don't have a level of humility with your kid. We all think our kid is great. That's why they're our kid. But when you start thinking, my kid's the best, my kid is the best shortstop on his baseball team, on his travel team. He's the shortstop. He makes all tournament half the time when we go to a tournament. He's going to get a Division I scholarship. What you don't realize is every kid that goes to college and plays athletics was probably the best kid on their team where they came from. So that funnel gets really small. And I'm not talking about just Division I. I'm talking about at every division. I don't know. It was in one of the podcasts you did with Coach Burkett. And one of the things that distinctly stuck out to me was you asked her if she's recruiting 2 and 3-star athletes, can she compete at the national championship? And her response was, can't compete in my conference because she's playing in the toughest conference in the United States. And other podcasts I've heard you say, if you put a D3, the best D3 out there with some mid-level D1s and they played, it would be hard for you to pick out which one's D1 volleyball and which one's D3. So don't, as a parent, get so wrapped up in my kid's great, somebody's going to find them. It's just going to happen organically because of their athletic ability.
Yeah.
It can, yeah, absolutely it can. I guess we're of an age, when I say Michael Jordan, people our age resonate with that. It's LeBron or Michael, depending on your age. But for me, Michael Jordan was talented, but he didn't just show up. He worked at it. And the legendary stories of him pushing his teammates to be at his level, which they never were going to be, but he tried to push everybody to that level. Accept what level you're at and be honest with your evaluation of your own evaluation of your talent. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is don't write off the other divisions, NAIA, Division II, Division III, even JUCO. Like a Division I JUCO can give you a full scholarship and pay for your housing and give you some money for academic supplies, all of these things. There's ways to get college paid for. Another thing would be make sure your athlete, it's their dream and not your dream. If you want your kid to play in college more than they do, it's not going to be successful for any. No matter how talented they are, no matter how good they are, it's going to catch up with them at some point. You're going to run out of rope at the end.
Yeah.
Be efficient with your evaluation. Know that's their dream. And then the other thing is don't forget about the academics. And I came up with it because I was a baseball coach, but I had kids that played baseball for me that played in college and football that played for me. I had kids that went on and won the Velarde Trophy in Division III that played for me. So I've been around good athletes. The thing that I would say about your grades is, and this is my analogy, is your GPA will get you a lot more money for school than what your ERA will in baseball. GPA for those Division IIs, those NAIAs, those Division IIIs, they're going to throw more money probably at you academically when they start setting up their athletic scholarship money. So if you come in with good high GPA, a good test score, they're going to be like, man, you're great. You're one of the best athletes we can find. And I don't have to give you a bunch of athletic money because your grades are so good. Yeah, I'm taking you. I'm going to stand in line for you. So that's really important. It's more valuable than anything we do on the court when it comes to getting recruiting.
It's the easiest scholarship dollars there are, having good grades. Brian, I want to go back to talking about Kelsey's the emotional journey. She's a 2027. If we didn't talk about this, she just started her junior year. How much has getting some feedback from college coaches as a sophomore and now as a junior, what has that done for her confidence that she can play? She does have a skill set, because a lot of kids, they don't start their recruiting process till late junior, early senior year. And they've gotten really no college coaches giving them feedback or saying, hey, you're really good, but if you'll work on this and this, it's going to make you an even better recruit for us or somebody else. What has that done for her confidence and her mentality in this journey?
I think it's obviously increased her confidence in her game. I feel like she's always, because I coached for a long time and was on the sidelines, I don't necessarily look at my own kid. I think a lot of parents do. He's the one I'm most critical of.
Right.
He's the only one I'll say bad things about. Oh, come on. You've got one job. Just do it. I get on her, or I get more frustrated with her than I do anybody else because of that mentality of we're just trying to win. We're just trying to get a game out there. But for her confidence, I've always felt like she was confident in her game from an early age. He wants to be the kid on the line at that point, serving the ball. Like he wants to serve an ace. That's what she wants to finish it with her serve. So she's always been confident in her play, but I just see a different level of just like her strut a little bit, just the way she warms up, the way she reacts. I know that. So she went to a couple of camps this summer that were invite camps. She got invited to a couple of college prospect camps, Division II and NAIA camp that were pretty small, and he really had a good time. And I think that probably opened her eyes a lot to what college is like, what the speed of the game is. I remember one of the podcasts listening, you talking about you could read a chapter of a book between points in a high school game. And that's true. And then watching a college game, like the girls are just on. And I was thinking about it the other night, watching them play. These girls are sitting on a bench. I can't remember the last time I saw college girls not standing up who aren't going to get in the game, but they stand up the whole game. But if they get called on, they're in. There's no wasted time. They're for the fire. So I feel like it also has made her aware of how she needs to tailor her game, being quick. The other thing, as she sets on her high school team this year, she played DS last year. So she's setting, so she's floor captaining more. She's always positive, even when bad things happen. And I don't know and I noticed that more in the first few games we've played already this season. She's a little more vocal. She's a lot more vocal this year as a junior and as a setter than she was last year as a DS playing with two seniors that drove our team last year. They were our two hitters, and they drove our team to the state championship last year. So he's a lot more vocal. Just having an idea that she can play at a college level, and then she has one school that's very interested in her that I think she's going to get an offer for after a visit this fall that we got set up. I'm confident that's going to probably happen. That makes her feel good. Now, the flip side of that is I don't want her to fall in love with them until they've given her a ring. I want her to keep following the playbook, the launchpad, keep sending out emails, keep going with it until we know this isn't a committed relationship until you sign on the dotted line. So let's look at all of our options because you never know who's going to come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
All you need is the right person to see you on the right day, and it can turn into, for my athlete, maybe even a low-level Division I offer. Stranger things have happened. So I keep telling her, I send her, we got a list from you of some target schools that would be good for her based on her play. And we're not going through that. But then I go and look at some other schools. I'm like, I think this would be a good fit for you too, because this is what you want to study academically. If it's close to us, I like the price. Let's look at that. So send them an email. And it's definitely inspiring when she gets a response. And the thing that's hard for me to get her to do is probably sometimes we've had a conversation. She's happy sending an email. She has a hard time making the phone call.
Yeah.
She's scared because it happened to her. They answered one day and it was like, oh. So she got really scared. And I had her listen to one of the podcasts with girls from Oregon State that plays softball.
Amelia.
I had her listen to that.
Amelia Struber.
Yeah. So I had her listen to that one, and she said she made a phone call to Oregon State, and the first call went bad. And they were on, she said her and her dad were in the car, and he's like, you can do one of two things. You can let it sit there and that's what they hear, or you can call them back and make a joke out of it and say, it's bad. Let me try again. She called back. You know what? That's where she ended up. She ended up at the place she called. So she ended up, she's a freshman at Oregon State now playing Division I softball. And that's what I keep telling Kelsey. Make the phone call.
I just talked to her yesterday, and she's having a blast. For me, I see so many parents that are stuck in quicksand. They have analysis by paralysis. You took that initiative to say, I've got to learn, I've got to figure this out. And you picked up the phone and you made a phone call. You scheduled a strategy session. You knew it was free and you wanted to say, okay, let's find out what free really means. You bought a book that was fairly cheap and you read the book and go, gosh, there's some guidelines here. You paid for a class, a recruiting class that taught you the steps. How do we get parents to unleash themselves to make that phone call and say, I'm going to schedule with a Matt, I'm going to schedule with an NCSA, I'm going to get this ball rolling and at least try to learn where we need to be? How important is that just to get off the couch and make the call?
There's an old proverb that just comes to mind of every journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And that's what this is. And recruiting, I know I've heard it multiple times on your podcast. I've read it in other books. I've seen it in other places. I'm sure that Coach Mickle at York will be posting something about a journey in 1,000 miles at some point in time, because I've become a daily devotee of his wisdoms.
Good.
That you just got to make a choice. Like, what are we going to do? And there are a lot of families out there, and I feel like there are a lot of families out there who can throw money at a problem. It's very easy to call NCSA and write a check with a big comma and say, do the recruiting for us. And I still don't know that you're going to get what you're really looking for.
No, they're not going to do it for you either.
You're still going to have buy-in. It's not automatic.
Yeah.
You can't write a $5,000 check, a $10,000 check, a $15,000 check and say Division I scholarship coming your way. It just doesn't work that way. You gotta like, the school's got to love you. They got to commit to you. You have to be good enough. This is a place where you can't just throw money at it and expect it to happen. You've got to put time, effort, and sweat equity into it. But at the same time, again, like I said earlier, if it's not your kid's dream and it's your dream, it's going to fail. At some point in time, it's going to fail, whether it's the first day of practice or at the end of their freshman year. I just had a conversation with someone I used to work with whose daughter is playing NAIA basketball in Fort Wayne area at an NAIA school. And I just asked her because of Kelsey's interest in an NAIA school. And I'm very familiar with NCAA. We're all familiar with that. But the NAIA, I wanted to talk to her and I said, what was your experience? And she really walked me through her daughter's experience with college athletics, because she was a basketball player, took her senior summer off after her senior year and showed up out of shape. And she said, the coach was a very different coach when we started than he was when he was recruiting. He was very nice. And then when she came in out of shape, he was not so nice. And this mother said, yeah, he wasn't nice, but he wasn't wrong. And we told her, you're taking off. You need to get out and work out. You need to do your stuff. And she showed up out of shape. And she was ready to come home because it was hard. So you've got to put the work in. You as a parent, though, if you're sending the emails for your kid, it's going to fail. The coach is going to see through that. If you're mass emailing people looking for it, if your whole recruiting journey is, I just need my kid to pay for college because it's expensive and I need their athletics to pay for it, something's going to break down somewhere, and that's probably not going to work. It has to be something they're passionate about. It has to be something they're going to gain from personally for their future, because you learn a lot from athletics, whether that's an individual sport or a team sport. You learn valuable lessons that I know personally, playing sports growing up and even playing briefly in college and coaching team sports, that it drove my career in a lot of ways. It helped me get ahead because of the lessons I learned and the ability to work with people and just work effort, like putting the sweat in sometimes to doing your job and being willing to do things other people aren't willing to do. And if your athlete isn't willing to put the work in and you're doing all the work for them, they're not going to have a good experience recruiting. They're probably not going to end up in a place where they're happy. They're not going to be excited about playing that sport. And it's got to be personal effort and work by the athlete. They need to have an email. You can coach them. I mean, you can help them get a YouTube page going, set up their profile. To me, that's not helicopter planning. That's just, let's make it look professional.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're writing their personal statements for them, or I might correct them. Actually, my kids probably correct grammar better than I do. I don't talk so goodly all the time, but you're doing those things for them. yeah, you think you're helping, but in the long run, it's going to fail. Your athlete has to accept that responsibility and make it a passion for them in order to be successful in the recruiting journey. I mean, it's a journey. It's not, it's a marathon. It's a long way around. Like some people, maybe you find your first call and you fall in love with that school and that's the right school for you. Great. I think that's few and far between. Look at all your options. Don't count out Division 2. Don't count out Division 3. Don't look at the price tag on the school and think, boy, that's more than what we could ever pay. Wait till you do your FAFSA, do all your other stuff, see what they say, see what kind of academic offers they have. These schools wouldn't be filled with these athletes if they were all paying full tuition at Division 3 schools, at NAIA schools. Like a lot of sports, all of those sports are that have Division 2 NAIA, they're cutting their scholarships up. They don't have full ride for every athlete. That's a Division 1 thing. And that's also a landscape that's rapidly changing as we speak and changing so quickly that I don't have a handle on it. I don't know that you in this business have a good grasp on it. I've listened to some of the podcasts where the coaches said, yeah, my athletic director will tell me what we can do, and that's what I will go by.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
They're still figuring it out. Yeah. I'm interested in, because we have daughters that are the same age. They're both 16. They're both going through this journey and the highs and lows of their emotions that they go through every day, every second, it seems. What has having the significant recruiting book, having the significant recruiting launchpad classes, what's that done for her to help her understand a little bit of that routine and consistency, and that it is a marathon and not a sprint? Is there one or two things that she's taken from it that's helped her have that confidence to say, you know what, I can do this for 5 minutes a week?
I feel like what she's really kind of taken off with is don't send the same email to every coach. Don't send the same thing to every school. And I tell her, like, she's had some phone calls with different schools. Four or five schools she's had actual calls with coaches online, Zoom calls like this kind of thing, where she's had those. And I tell her, like, I told her, like, before you send an email, make a connection, read about the school, jump on their website, see what their schedule looks like, see what their coaches are like, see how long the coaches have been there, see what their records have been, see where they're from, or maybe you know somebody they know, or maybe they coached at a school that you know somebody at. Like making connections, because that's a lot of it. Like a lot of times the connections are better than your athletics. Like, hey, we have somebody in common. I'm going to reach out to them. If they like you, then I'll like you.
Yeah.
Those connections are important. I tell her to research the schools, research the coaches, not stalk them, but at the same time, like have an idea of who they are and what they're about and where they're going and where they want to see their program. We talk about program culture, like try to figure it out before you even talk to them. Is that a place you'd be interested in going? If this school has been 500 for the last 10 years and they've gone through 7 coaches, do you think your coach is going to come around that's recruiting you and it's going to be there in 4 years? Or do you think that this coach has been here 10 years? They've got a house. They live here. They'll have kids in the school districts around. Those are good schools that might actually have some stability to them. There are a lot of coaches that stay in places long term. College, how long has she been there? She's going to feel like that's a great place to be people to look at for their daughters playing volleyball, even though it's Division 3. I listened to hers and I was like, man, I told Kelsey, I was like, you guys go to this team camp and it's a long way away. It's a lot of money. It's a lot closer. Really, what she says, how they run team camp. You should talk to the coach next year when you're a senior and you should go to team camp there. Like, I think you get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
That really makes sense to me. There are great coaches in all these levels. So
Yeah.
don't write it
Coach
off.
Schmidt does it special at Hope. She's really unique in her approach. Your daughter's in her junior year. What excites you most and what still makes you a little bit nervous about the recruiting process?
Let me start with the nervous. What makes me nervous is making a bad decision, like picking a school that doesn't fit her or picking a school that just isn't a good fit athletically, academically, socially, culturally. all of those things. That scares me. The advice I would give is, and just the conversation I talked about with my friend whose daughter's playing NAIA basketball, and he said, honestly, their daughter, Rachel said, they told her, it's up to you. It's your choice where you want to go. And she looked at it. She looked at the price tag and said, they're giving me the best deal. I'm going there. Maybe for some families, that is the only way you're going to go to college. If money is the reason you pick your school, the only reason you pick your school, that's a red flag to me. You might have to scrimp and save a little more to go to a better school, or maybe this school is offering you 60% off, and the other school is offering you 75% off. But the other school, they have your major, but it's an afterthought. If the other school is known for your major, that'd be the place to go. Pick the right school for you, because they're all going to turn pro. All these college athletes are going to turn pro, but very few of them are going to be pros in what their sport is. And that even includes the ones that go into high level coaching.
Yeah.
The percentage of those athletes that are going to make a career out of athletics is pretty low. So that scares me. What excites me is just the journey, just like fun. Let's be honest, it's fun to take your kid to a college and walk through it and meet the coach and see the facilities and smell a dorm again, like I did years and years ago. And then to see some of these dorms at some of these schools, I'm like, that's nicer than my house now. Some of them are pretty nice. But yeah, those are the things. That's exciting. That's fun. Watching her continue to play and develop. I think Kelsey switched clubs this year. The club she was at, she didn't get the offer she wanted for her team. And she told him, no, I'm not going to go. And so at the last minute, he just said, I'm going to go to this club in a nearby town here in Indianapolis. And not knowing anybody, not knowing whether she'd make a team, we went down and said, this is where I'm going to throw my lot. And she went down, called out, and they said, yeah, we want you on our team.
That's great.
And I thought that's that confidence. And maybe that's where that confidence is in going to some of those camps this summer and going through this process. And maybe that's where it was. And I was like, I was really worried that she wasn't going to get an offer from this other one. And we were going to have to go back and beg the other, okay, the offer, even though we turned it down. It was a week ago. I was worried. And then I thought, what are we going to do if we don't have a club? Like he's at a critical point, like for her ability level. A lot of the 27s in volleyball are starting to commit. And those are all the D1 commits. Those are the highest ranked athletes now.
Yeah.
Things are going to start to trickle down. The D2s and the NAIs are going to commit. Then the D3s are going to commit. And then everybody else is going to start looking at the JUCOs. And so you want the first bite at the apple. And you want to bite on the apple that you want to bite on. Don't pick your school too soon, but don't wait too long either. Find the right set.
Brian, I'm starting to think I should take you on tour. I think you know my stuff better than I do in my books and my launch pads.
I am. I'm a devoted listener. Podcasts alone could get more listens from parents and coaches, because I think one of the things you said early on was why you created this was there wasn't anybody teaching people how to be an athletic director, how to be a coach. And those are needed, because I think a lot of people who are coaches coach the way they were coached.
Yeah.
And that's not always the best way. Not every kid responds to the old ways. And I don't think that maybe the new ways are always right either. You got to learn how to deal with people, and you got to learn how to put your point across. And there on the podcast itself, I've learned a lot personally and professionally about like how to deal with people. I'm a supervisor. I lead people. There are good lessons in all of that. And like I said, I haven't listened to one of your podcasts. I've just about gotten through all of them that I didn't pick up some tidbit from somebody. Like even Katanich at Oregon State coaching hitting. I pick up stuff from him, like he says. Not just about hitting, about coaching and about leading and about life. And all of those things are important. And then the Metropolitan State coach,
Jenny Glenn, Coach Glenn.
Jenny Glenn. Yep. Yeah, that's probably my favorite episode. I'm trying to get Kelsey to listen to that the other day, and it was after a tournament, and she just wanted to put her ear pods in. Like what she says and the way she develops people. If I was a company looking for employees, I'd hire her kids, because I know they're going to be leaders.
Yeah.
Like I just yesterday, I got the book Habitudes, because I'm like, Kelsey, we're going to read this.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. There's a lot of stuff. I read a lot of books growing up on leadership and management and development, and all those things stuck with me, and I'm still learning and be a lifelong learner on those things. I'm going to try to push those on Kelsey. For me and Kelsey, one of the biggest things is just trying to get her to trust the process, trying to get her to be like, I don't need to do that, or I don't need to post that, or I posted something last week. No, you don't know who's going to see it. You don't know when it's going to resonate with the right person. Keep putting yourself out there, getting her to be, and Kelsey loves to win. He wants to be the one. Like I said, she wants to be on the line when the game's on the line. She wants to be in the pressure situation. She doesn't want to have a spotlight on her. And that's just who she is. Like, she doesn't want to be like, that's why she's a great setter. She wants to make others look good.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to be the prima donna. She wants to be a team player and lead quietly, vocally on the court, but not have the spotlight on her. And I keep telling her, like, sometimes you got to promote yourself. Now, not to a fault or not too much, but you have to promote yourself and be ready to do those things and put yourself out there. That's why the phone calls are important. The coach can see a little bit of you in an email. When they hear your voice and they hear the passion about the game, how much you volleyball and how much you like playing, and how hard you are on the garage door from banging the ball against it and the roof, like when it's dark and that you're getting up early and going and running and doing those things.
Brian, this has been great. I really appreciate you giving your parents' perspective and your passion for your daughter. It shines through in everything you do and everything you say. And that's a great way to finish the podcast. I think a lot of parents are going to get a lot out of it.
Thanks, Matt.
That's a wrap for this week's recruiting segment of the Significant Coaching Podcast. Thanks again to Brian Olehy for sharing so openly about his daughter's journey and what he's going through as a parent of a recruit. Even with a few microphone hiccups, his passion, honesty, and willingness to help other families came through loud and clear. If you're a parent trying to figure out your next step, remember, you don't have to do this alone. You can schedule a free recruiting strategy session and find all my books, journals, and online classes at CoachMattRogers.com. I'm wishing you and your family a healthy and happy Thanksgiving. Until next time, stay focused on what you can control, stay humble, and keep chasing significance.